Fan fiction, what is it? Well, let's talk about it. And so, here is some ideas of what it is from some people now.
Got a tattoo.
So, this is Matt Kalick, and
You segued into that.
I'm here with Patty Holskamp and Rick, and not Rick.
My name could be Rick today.
Okay, and then Michelle. Oh God,
That's beautiful.
so we're going to talk about some things today. I thought we'd talk about maybe a little bit about fan fiction here, like for here, you ever watch something and then you think, oh man, why did they do that? I'm like, why did they? I mean, like it's nothing like the book or even like there's, Black Panther 2, Black Panther Wakanda Forever is going to be coming out. And it's getting some grief. It's getting some backlash already, and it hasn't even come out yet.
No, not yet.
And it's because they're changing some of the character's backstory. Like, you know who Namor is, right?
I don't.
Do you? Namor, the underwater guy. He's
Okay.
like Aquaman character of Marvel,
I know
and
that.
they're changing his character to be more like from. He's supposed to be Atlantean, but they're changing it to be more of from South American, and changing the way you pronounce his name, to sound more. I don't want to say not Mexican, but more Spanish.
Spanish.
Yeah, more Spanish. I'm like, no,
Because they had an actor already in mind.
yeah, they did, and I'm like, they got him. He's got a. I'm like, no. So he's never had a mustache in the comics, and it's not because he was he was half.
I have two words.
What?
Poetic license.
Poetic license.
Never heard that one before.
Well, but I think like when you said that about like changing the ending, the first thing that came to my mind is I Am Legend. My daughter used to love that show. We watched it so many times, but I always thought it should end differently.
Yes.
Which one was that?
With Will Smith.
There's
How did it end? He gave his DNA to save everybody, right?
Well, at
No.
the end,
No?
he gives the cure to this lady and her kid who hides in the little bunker. But supposedly there's like a fan fiction, like alternate ending, where he also climbs into the bunker thing,
Yep.
and then they all survive and help save, humanity.
There-
And I like that one much better.
I do too. I like even back to Game of Thrones when Ygritte asked Jon Snow to stay in the cave. He should have stayed. The game would have been a lot different show.
I liked it.
But I've always thought like there was a whole like fan following, like a whole, like some people I never saw it, but they said that sometimes in like theaters later they released an alternate ending where he
Really?
survived.
How do you know that?
there was a before I Am Legend, there was a one called Omega Man that came out years before, and it had I can't remember the guy's name. Charlton Heston.
Yeah, I believe so.
Charlton Heston, and that's the one you're probably thinking of. It was a similar premise, and he had the cure in his blood, and then they shot him up, and then or something, and then it got into the water, and that's how and then they I don't know if they drunk it or what.
I don't know.
That's how they cured him.
That's how I remember something with water. I don't remember.
But what about
So
what?
that's poetic license. They even do it through and through, and we want to do it. So why can't they do it? I mean, you're not going to please everybody. You may as well do what pleases you.
Yeah, but here's what I mean is like. I know Michelle calls herself a fair weather fan, but I think she's more than she looks on more than that. But I think this is what some people have said. Like I don't know. Did you see She-Hulk?
I did not because everybody told me it was terrible.
It is terrible.
When did it come out?
Recently.
Recently? Okay.
It's a series
My
Oh.
son said it's really, really bad.
on Disney Plus.
Live actors or?
I know what you meant.
It's live actors mixed with CGI,
Oh, that's all right.
and but it's just
You said they tried too hard
True.
to make a story where there's not one, and so they're forcing it. Really goes forced.
Nothing.
but no, it's like
This is my honors.
she. The character. I didn't have a problem with the actors. It wasn't the actors. It was just. It was the story. It was the script and the writers, the political standpoint of you know of wokeness, and I mean even the one director said she was planning on leaving if this one thing wasn't added into the story, which I don't believe that.
Okay.
Though that kind of thing does happen often, though, I'm sure. You know.
Yeah.
So could panic my own fantasy would you sit before?
Sorry?
I remember one time having my own science fiction
Yeah.
in my room. I do that too.
Make up your own story.
Yeah, it's the same movie, only with my words. You
I
know,
like that.
That's,
And it ends the way you like it.
it's okay. I'm
But you know,
not-
fan, like you were talking about the fan fiction thing where you know, people, that's something that kind of carries over into all different genres because I notice it in board games. Like I'm in groups for some of the board games I like, and people like alter the cards
My son changes
and
games all
remake
the time.
them for games.
All
You know,
the time.
like they have like the bird game that I really like to play, Wingspan. They have a whole page, and people like make a whole series of like fan cards that people have produced. Like, and you can get them, and they play with the regular deck. Like they look like real cards, but they make up their own, you know, rules for them and stuff. So I think that whenever somebody's really passionate about something, that's something that carries over. People
That'll be
alter things for themselves.
yeah.
I think she's exactly right there. Because you're passionate about it. That's why people don't want to see it change.
Yes.
That's why some people have to change it. You know what I mean? So it's all,
True.
to me, it's poetic license either way.
Well-
Either way, if you like it, what more do
We've
you
talked
want?
about that because the Thor movie that I enjoyed,
Yeah.
if you're a really hardcore fan and you really get into the backstory and everything, everybody that I know that's really into the story itself and the backstory, they all hated it.
Yes.
But people who just wanted to go see something and laugh and feel happy and go home, you know, with a good warm fuzzy feeling, I was fine with it.
Go see it as a movie.
I liked
That
it.
used to be my job at NKP.
Did you?
No, what she said, my boss said, Chris,
Oh.
your job is just to go around and give people a warm and happy fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, I did that same thing too.
That's a good job.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but I had to do it all over the state of Ohio. That's not no fun.
But no, I mean they've talked about how they at one. I've heard some people think, oh well, that movie is going to lose money, and
Ooh, I hate that.
Well, they spend so much money on movies now, it's not surprising. We, like, you know, I'm like a weird sci-fi movie fan. So like Sharknado and that kind of stuff that's
Oh,
Really?
really
I've
super
that one
cheesy.
before.
Love them.
I watched Hulk the other day, the new Hulk, recent 2008.
Ian Ziering signed my Sharknado shirt.
Sharknado.
Oh.
Wait a minute. Can you go back and tell me a little bit what that's about? Is it really just like tornadoes sucking up sharks and throwing them on land?
Yeah, they just like they're just They're
But
part
they
of the
can-
storm.
but they're
There's
not-
like 9 of them. No, maybe there's only 6. There's a
So
lot.
how do they survive?
Who cares?
Who
See, that's
cares?
what he says. Because we went to Comic-Con and we heard the panel talk about it. And they said they get all these letters from people saying that the footage wasn't accurate because they were different. And he's like, there are sharks in the sky. And you're telling me that my footage wasn't accurate? But they filmed the first one, the whole thing. I think they only spent like $20,000 or $30,000 to do it. Like the director filmed half of it on his iPhone. And
Oh, wow.
they had to make up music because they couldn't afford to pay royalties to use good music the first couple because it was so low budget.
That's kind of cool. Then.
And then it got a cult following, and then the last ones were really super high budget with like all kinds of star appearances, you know, and
That doesn't make them big, doesn't it?
it was really funny.
Shark.
Great.
Okay, let me ask you this. Has there ever been a sequel or like a remake or anything that you thought was terrible?
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah, I didn't
The
care.
book was great. The movie was terrible.
I haven't read the book, but the movie was bad.
Huh, that's different.
How would you have played it out?
I would have finished it. Like, there's still like 4 or 5 chapters left in the book when the movie ends. All the best part never played out on the screen.
Huh.
Has there ever been
It
a
ends like, well, you know how it ends.
yeah?
Well, in
Guy
the,
ends up in a bar asking this guy, talking to this guy.
in the book, at the very end, Abraham Lincoln, who has since been turned into a vampire, and the
Oh, I
vampire
didn't know
hunter
that.
are standing at the outside edge of the Lincoln Memorial, talking about how they're going to save the world.
Oh,
That's a way better ending.
now that would be a better ending. But how does
Because when he gets shot, they sneak him out and turn him into a vampire before he dies.
that is interesting.
And so
That's
then
what
everybody,
happened.
the whole world thinks he dies, but really he is saving the world.
How does he
So it's much better.
contain with like his bloodlust, or does he have like a bloodlust?
They don't talk about that.
Okay.
I tell you, those
Yeah,
kind of
I know
movies, I think they're great and
You
you
just know at the end
enjoyable.
it just ends. You know that there they are talking.
My only
That's
problem with
what
those
they
kind of movies is that some people actually believe it happened. That's my only problem.
Yeah, it's
with them.
bizarre.
Believe what
It's a shame.
happened.
It's a
It
sad reality, though.
Because the thing is,
Because
that
there
with
was a
this
thing
book is
about
a lot
that
of
when
it
that
is
came out.
true. Like they do use a lot of historical stuff
Yeah.
in the book.
Right.
But obviously, Abraham Lincoln wasn't a vampire. But the guy who writes this, like, he's really funny. If you ever read an interview with him, like, the Pride and Prejudice with zombies.
Oh, I know those.
He bought the right to the manuscript.
Oh, wow.
I
And
haven't
then
seen
went
that,
into
but
the
I've
original
heard-
manuscript and wrote the zombies into the story.
cool.
So the story is the same, except the girls are like zombie hunters. And it's like hilarious. I mean, that's a very creative mind and a very crazy sense of, perspective. And I find that enjoyable.
Well, okay. I know you saw that Hocus Pocus 2.
You like it?
I personally, I didn't watch it, but I watched a review of it,
Oh,
and basically I got the cliff notes, and I'm like, yeah, I can see why a majority of people do not like this, and
I enjoyed it.
I don't think
Did you
it's
say you liked it?
I don't think it's the reason why you think it. I think it is why I thought it. It's because at the end they made the witches nice.
But I was not a big fan of the original. I was like, take it or leave it. So maybe I wasn't as emotionally invested in the
Well, when I was
characters as other people.
when I was a kid, yeah, I really enjoyed it because I'm like, or maybe because it was really new. It was new because I was, when I was a kid, and it's like, what's going on? But but this was just like,
I like the book with the eye. I like that one better. That's funny.
there's
I
another.
mean, by the same token, if they'd have made it where the witches weren't nice, somebody else might not have liked this. No way you're going to please everybody.
It's Disney now
Way
too,
around.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, wouldn't doubt.
I think it's always been Disney.
Oh, has it?
Yeah, the first one's a Walt Disney one, and the other one's a Disney Plus.
Oh, is
I
it?
don't have that in my house.
Yeah, I got Disney Plus on my phone.
Yeah.
It won't go on my TV, but it goes on my phone, so I just cast it to my TV. It's odd.
Yeah, that is odd.
It's like we can't get Prime on the TV, but
Oh,
Well, okay, all right. What about this? Okay, let me tell you what. Think about this. 2014 remake
Oh.
RoboCop. They remade RoboCop. It was terrible.
oh, remake?
Yeah, remake.
Oh,
It was bad.
I didn't know it was a remake. I thought it was.
Yeah,
Wait,
the 2014 one.
Oh,
Original RoboCop. What year was that?
I was actually here. I was born 1970. No, not 1970. 1978.
I was going to say, I remember watching it. So
You were born '78.
No, 1987. 1987. Oh, what the
I thought
heck?
I was older.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. And, that movie is so enjoyable, that one. You know, Paul Verhoeven, Dutch guy, I can't. Oh, he's made some masterpieces, and that was one of them.
Well, sometimes I think they're just making money off stuff, so they keep putting more out there just to make
Yeah,
more
but-
money, and it's not always good.
It had a lot of trouble in the start. It went through 2 directors, and the studio, movies have a lot of trouble when the studio gets involved and stuff. And RoboCop always was supposed to have an overlong political backstory about, because the first one was about taking the power away from it was a satire. It was a satire, but yeah, it was about taking all of a humanity away from. It was about trying to show how corporate power took all the humanity away from everyday people.
That seemed a lot more thoughtful
Man,
than I
I
remember
bet.
that movie being.
That's exactly what it was about. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
All about corporations and
Yep.
people buying. Remember that Pontiac SUX?
Yeah.
The Pontiac XUX.
I must have just coasted through that. I
Pontiac,
didn't think it was any
the
kind of statement.
SUX 3000 or something like that. SUX.
I like the one I like. It's called The Corpse Bride from Johnny Depp. Good movie. I know it's kind of disgusting, but it's very funny.
I haven't seen that.
It's The Corpse Bride. It's a real Disney movie.
No, I've never seen that.
Johnny Depp
Oh
is in
yeah,
that
it's
movie.
claymation.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really funny because everyone knows you cannot marry a corpse.
Right.
But now you know because he only get married to this girl named Victoria, and she lives in a poorhouse with no money because her parents let her marry Victor and his parents. I like the parents, but man, you're kind of weird.
Never heard that one.
So that's what. Would there be anything you would change about it?
Well, I want to change this one guy. He is a bad guy, and he always wants money, and he always what he wants. And I think his name is Lord Buckus. I hate that name.
But, no, in the 2014 RoboCop movie, it was terrible. First of all, the one thing I hated about it, they didn't wipe Murphy or Alex's mind. They didn't wipe his mind, which is like okay. And they asked his wife's consent to do that to him. The villains of the movie were so weak. Oh my God, they were so weak. And they did this because they wanted to get a bill passed so they could sell, basically so they could show the world, selling robots, defense robots in the U.S. is okay. And but until then, we'll just say, okay, here's a cyborg, and that'll.
Heard that one before.
Matt, can I ask you a question? If you could remake something like that, what would you do? What would you? I mean, I hear you talk about you don't like this or like that, but what would you do to make it better?
I've thought about different things. I've thought about different
Well,
scenarios.
maybe you need to make something.
Well,
We'd all help you.
I don't got the finances. I don't got I don't know anything about
You just said somebody shot
I
one
can-
on their iPhone.
Oh, well, yeah, that one guy
I'm
did.
sure a Google phone could
Like,
do it well.
okay, I will tell you this. I have thought about two different, like the last Terminator movie.
Oh.
The last term.
That was what I was thinking when you talk about things that you wish end different too. Because
Oh yes.
they started out so strong, and oh my gosh, what they did to that.
Oh yes. The last Terminator movie. I'm like, and it's because it's something I've thought about, and it came. The idea is so simple because I got the idea from a old 80s movie. I think it was in the 80s. It was from a, like, I don't know what the movie was called, but it was like where these time travelers would go into the past and replace the people in the past with like these fake people. So like nothing was altered except for they took the real people into the future and replaced with bodies, fake bodies.
What was that called?
I don't know, but
I feel like I've seen that.
Was it called Replacements or something like that?
no,
Or Leapers? Or?
no, it was. I don't know. It had something to do with planes. I know, but anyways, I got that idea, and this is where I got. Okay, in the last Terminator movie, John Connor gets killed as a kid. They say that like this timeline, like that because it was all supposed to be female empowerment. Remember? Mm. And then, but okay, but I'm
It's
thinking.
funny if you don't know Matt. That sounds really bad, doesn't it?
I know. Female. It's like you didn't like it. Female.
It's like you got to be
empowerment.
in like context of other conversations we've had to understand that was not meant really like down with women.
But what it is okay. All right. Say okay, he does die, but say there are these hyper intelligent, like beyond the AI of, because there is in a comic book like someones who do monitor the time stream and hyper intelligent like life forms or whatever, like monitoring the time stream, and they step in and they like, because you could step in right as Kyle, not Kyle, John dies. Okay, replace the body with a lifeless one, take him into the future, train him, and then bam, right at the end of that movie, he shows up in a time portal and basically guns down the as an adult and takes out the main villain.
Well, I think the same thing goes wrong with that as with any other time when they've tried to play with the idea of time travel.
Yeah, time
There
travel
is
is
a
rough.
really, really hard way to do that and not just mess things up so unbelievably. Like my son and I, well, Matt and I too, have had like hours of conversations about flaws in time traveling.
But because there are different
concepts.
styles too of time travel, either like certain rules that they're either going to break or not.
Well, yeah, this is
And there's so many concepts like, well, if you do
Yeah.
this, then the whole world just implodes,
yeah.
And it's like, which seems problematic, but it's like they always seem to break those same rules that are supposed to implode the world, but it doesn't, and so like we've talked like in many, many hours of why, different people do time traveling right or wrong or what they do.
Well, there's either the grandfather paradox or butterfly thing. I forget.
Butterfly effect.
Butterfly effect.
That
But
was
that's
butterfly.
why I think this,
And that's what you guys all liked about the Marvel, because they do like parallel timelines.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're skipping from timeline to timeline, you're not messing up the original one
Mm-hmm.
because it's already there. You're just like on different planes, which is like a bizarre.
That's why Marvel did that.
Yeah.
Probably makes sense of it all.
Yeah, my son and Matt are both a fan of that concept, right?
yeah. The only thing about that sort of thing is like, well,
Well, we found out in the Doctor Strange movie it's very complicated.
yes. But that's why I think this would be the most logical thing if you're ever trying to change something. It's almost like tricking time. Like say, okay,
I just feel like my problem with that is like you just create this infinite like complexity to everything if you start doing that. Like sometimes things end and that's okay. But nothing ever ends if there's always like a back door, you know, where you can come around and, you know, go like,
Well-
so then nobody ever has to die. And,
Right.
you know, like, it's just like, it gets so complicated.
I
you
sort
know,
of like, I
so
like stories like that though. I do.
that
I'm
make you
like,
think.
Yeah, it's like poetic license to the 10th exponent.
yeah.
Which I think, you know, you're never going to make everybody happy. So
Yeah.
they might as well go with what they go with.
Well, go what you like, or
Well,
what works.
I don't,
Or like what you said, what you can afford.
yeah.
Yeah,
Or-
that's probably a factor in many movies.
Well, it is. But I'm just thinking. Oh, another thing. I think the perfect guy to play
What?
John Connor
Yeah.
is
Well, I'm
that
thinking,
guy
Yeah.
who. Do you know that guy's name who plays in The Walking Dead? He always carries a crossbow.
Yeah. I met him, Norman Reedus.
Normus Reedus.
Like the main
He's
guy, you
very
met him?
nice. Yeah.
Really cool.
I have a picture with him. He's a very nice guy.
I
I
think he
could not
looks
watch that
very
show.
nice.
My goodness.
I stopped watching the show too because it got really bad. When the people started attacking people, I was like, okay, I'm out. I
No,
was
that's
fine with
not
the
why.
zombie
For-
stuff, but it got too vicious.
For me, it was
with
the imagery of the zombie imagery was too much for me.
For me,
Really?
it's like when the people started killing
Yeah,
people,
just
I
pictures
was
of
out.
zombies,
It was too
how
much.
they were dripping skin and stuff like that.
Ew.
It's just too much.
Yeah, that one guy. I didn't watch it. I haven't watched it, but I know that one guy with the. I saw that one guy with the nails, the chain links fence on the back.
I was thinking, Matt, I would join your book club if you read one book.
What's that?
It's not very long. It's called one of the oldest books ever. It's called the Epic of Gilgamesh.
I feel like I've heard of it.
I've heard of that.
It's old.
I've heard
It
of
was
it.
written in cuneiform,
Okay.
and it's just a good story. But what really surprised me about it is a book that old mentioned zombies.
Really?
That's why it just blew my mind. About
Well,
I didn't believe in zombies at all until I read that book.
well, you know that
It's a short story, really.
vampires originally were thought as zombies. They weren't thought as vampires. They were thought as like zombies.
What's his name?
Norman Reedus.
Or as he's been in video games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know by trade he's like an auto mechanic,
Yes,
and he just kind of I don't even know how he fell into that.
because how you mean an actor or
Yeah,
because-
being an actor. But now he
because-
does his own show where he drives. Well, I don't know if he still does it. Where he drives cross country on his motorcycle and.
Oh, cool.
some guy saw him at his auto garage, and they're like, you know what? This guy looks like he could do this, on this one job. I just need an extra, and that's how he fell into it.
Yeah, and it sounds like
The rest is history.
He
Yeah.
tried to quit a couple times, but people just had a fit. When we were at Comic-Con, everybody was wearing T-shirts that said, "If Daryl dies, we riot."
Yeah. Well, I think he is such a good. I mean, he doesn't do hardly anything,
He
but
just feels very real, you know.
yes,
because
he's a down.
not an actor.
Yeah. I'm like that. That's why I think he would be the best John Connor.
And he's super, 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 super nice. Like when we went and saw him, there was a big group of people and all these young, girls. He's close to my age. And all these young girls were like screaming, and somebody screamed out, "Marry me!" And he's like, "That would be creepy because I'm old enough to be your grandpa."
He doesn't look
He
that
was real
old.
decent, and he talked to like a lot of the older women and just walked past the screaming girls like they weren't there. It was really sweet.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't
you
see-
look good for you look very nice for your age too.
He came over and talked to me, and there was an elderly lady next to me, and she was all shaking excited, and he kissed her on the cheek, and was really sweet. Talked to the two of us, and walked past all the young screaming girls. He was super sweet.
Okay, let me ask you this. If there was a movie, like any movie today, I know there's this whole race, there's this, like, talking about, but if there was a movie, who would you pick to play in it?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Like, if there was
Like, do we have
a
a favorite
movie...
actor?
Do I have a favorite actor?
Well, no, not a favorite actor, but, like, if you had a movie in mind and you could pick who you wanted to play that role.
Too vague of a question. Pick a movie and then I'll tell you who. No, I don't have a movie in mind.
Oh God.
Can I change somebody out? Or what? Is that what you're saying? Like, pick a movie and say somebody else would be better in it? Because I tell you, did you ever see the show, a movie called Repo? Repo was a musical.
Oh, okay, then I don't know.
And the girl they put in Repo, terrible singer. And they had so many great singers out there. And I believe it was the girl,
Yeah.
like the vampire girl from the Werewolves and Vampires.
From Twilight.
Like Kristen, that chick. I think it was her.
Yeah.
Very weak singer, though.
Well, you know what's funny though?
There's so many
Because
great singers out there.
The
She
many
was just
looks
hot at that
of
time.
Christian.
things have changed a lot because, like, my dad has talked about, like, in the older movies, like, sometimes they would have a different person singing off set because if you weren't attractive enough, you couldn't have the part, even if you were the best. For
It's
the part.
still probably that
so
way.
a lot of times, they, like, now
Overdub.
you see people that are, like, not everybody people look different and stuff, but, like, if you didn't have the look that Hollywood wanted, you couldn't be a star. So a lot of the people that starred in a lot of the movies that were so famous really were not that talented. They were just pretty.
Yeah.
Still that way.
Well,
Kid Rock. Should I keep going?
go ahead.
Well, I think it's getting
Very
better than it
talented.
used to be.
Nickelback.
What do you think, Patty? Is there any person you would pick to be in a movie? Like,
I have to say this, but it's the same movie I've seen before. His name is Peter Dinklage. I like him because he's my favorite actor. He plays Tyrion Lannister. I like that character because he wanted to do something about fighting in the battle, and he wants to have his own place to live, and he wants a wife, and he wants a better life because all his family, what he did to him wasn't that nice. So I wish I'd be in that movie with him. And I'll get mad, I get frustrated, and someone takes somebody like that, I'm gonna be in that movie with him.
Yes.
So Patty's gonna put herself in the movie.
Yeah, I like that. That's
Is
fan
there-
fiction.
Yeah.
Ultimate fan fiction.
is there any movies that, like, what is there any roles do you think? Because he's played other roles. I like some of the roles he's been in too. There's been
Elf is my favorite.
I can't remember the name, but I saw him in a strange movie where he thought he was the last man on Earth.
yes.
And he met one of the Fannings, Dakota's sister, or Dakota Fanning, or
Yeah.
some little girl comes and she's just really crazy, and
Yeah.
it's just
It was a town. It was
It was a-
it was a deserted town.
yeah.
That's funny. One of those things where you're just clicking through the channels and you come across halfway through something and you're like, what was that?
Yeah, and then there's he was in another one where oh God he something about he liked trains.
He was in Death at a Funeral.
Yes,
Yeah, that's the one I like.
I started watching it. I didn't finish
yes,
it.
and he was and he was their dad's wasn't the dad's lover.
I just started.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it. I just
Yeah,
started.
I remember it's on my
Got torn
phone.
away.
Yeah, the dad's there because originally it was a British movie, but then when they they brought it over to
That's weird.
America.
That's a good topic right there.
Yeah, I like that.
Movies that they brought from other countries. And
Yes,
changed
that
it
is
there. That's a good topic because there's a lot of good ones like
There
that.
are.
Yeah, I like
One of
that.
my favorite movies ever is Life is Beautiful. And it was made, I don't even know what language it was actually made in, but it's the, is it Roberto Benigni, this little short Italian, like Jewish. He's it was like Holocaust movie, and the first time I watched it in the foreign language, but with subtitles, and it was just beautiful, really moving. Well, then they dubbed it, with English. And it's like, it was not as good, but it ended up a foreign film, and it won like Academy
Life
Awards
is
and stuff
Beautiful,
that
huh?
year. And it was like, that's just unheard of for a movie that wasn't made, in English to win the Academy Award. But I mean, the guy was so excited that when he won, he like climbed up over the seats. He didn't even go to the aisle. He came like up to the front, like over the seats in front of him. It was adorable. And it was just a really like heartwarming movie. It was sad because the stuff that happened during the Holocaust was just devastating. His son was with him, and it was the whole time of him protecting his son through the process of being in the concentration camp and stuff.
What was the one of the dog? The dog that used to go to the train every day for the man to wait for him?
Oh.
And then the man passes away, and the dog still. Well, there was a statue up about him.
Yes, I know what you're talking
And it was
about.
it was made like in China or Japan
Yes,
somewhere. And then
but I don't.
Richard's-
I don't know. It's a true story. It's based on a true story, and it was a.
Haku?
Paco.
Or Haku?
I don't remember the name of it. I know what was the type of dog it was.
Akita.
Nikita. But yeah, I don't remember the name of the movie. But yeah, I've never watched it. But yeah, I remember the story it was based on.
I've watched it both, like the English version and the original. They're both well made. It's a good touching movie.
Well, that's what there's something about too when people are in their native language, like because they must have filmed it twice because the body language was different and the inflection was different. Like you could feel it more when they were in their own language. Like you could just feel the passion in how they said things, and just more moving.
Kurosawa films are some of my famous. Those old samurai.
Oh.
Briggs of Tokori. Those ones, like you said, right away when you said that their body language is, they barely move at all. Sometimes that says a lot.
Well, and it's so funny because some other languages have
Oh.
Yeah.
some other languages have words, that say more in one word, and we have to say a lot of words to say the same thing. 'Cause
Yes.
I always think when you watch like those old, like I'm going to say Godzilla and stuff like
that's
that,
a good movie.
and you got this like all these mouth moving and
Yes.
no, and it's like, but his mouth moved for like 2 minutes. He definitely said more than no.
And sometimes when they bring, like you mentioned, like Godzilla, and because that is a foreign film, and they bring it over here, they try to Americanize it, and they've
I like the first one.
it's actually Godzilla. I don't know if I'm saying
Goshiro.
Godzilla,
Goshiro.
I can't say.
that.
but do you know what that actually translates to? Gorilla whale.
Gorilla whale.
Oh, that's funny. So large gorilla, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So and.
That's something that's been remade a lot.
Do you know what the whole premise? Well, not the premise, but the whole thing about Godzilla was all about, right?
I think it's about the atomic bomb.
Yep, that's right. It was about the atomic bomb. It was about how it was Japanese who felt like they were.
You mean the second one?
No, this was about the original one all the way back in 1950, because the atomic bomb was dropped in 1940.
Kiryuto.
Oh, I gotcha now.
It's hard to believe that was so much. I mean, that's not as long ago as it
Those are
feels
hydrogen
like.
bombs.
Those were hydrogen,
Yeah.
Feels like
I
it was
thought
so
they were
long ago,
atomic.
but that's really not that long ago.
nuclear.
Look at the
You think
Songbirds.
like in the 40s. That's
Yeah,
not as
not
long
that
ago as
long
it feels like. It feels like it was like a million lifetimes
Yeah.
ago.
Well, like the.
It is for some people, I guess. I've lost a lot of good friends.
But that's what I'm thinking. Like, it's just hard to imagine that it really wasn't. I mean, how much the world's changed in like the last couple of generations is kind of unbelievable.
Well, think about it. That what was it? Where was that in Russia that happened where they had that nuclear
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl? Think about that. I thought that happened decades ago, and then I'm like, oh my God, that happened in the time that
We had our own here, 3 Mile Island, in the 80s.
yes. Yeah, and I remember hearing about that, but what I'm saying is I'm like, my mom was alive at that time, and I thought, man, that happened maybe before she did, but no, she was alive, and I it was close to when I was being born. And I'm like, oh my God. And and the way they had to do, a lot of people died trying to when they can try to contain it. And I
Tried to
don't,
lie about it. Did you see now though? They're going back in that area, making movies and stuff about
Mm-hmm.
it. I saw one where all these like creatures that were still living there.
Yeah.
It was just like, that was crazy. That was like a B movie.
like where those where they were tourists. They were tourists, and they went over there like they were going over there like, oh, what would you call them? Like fan. Well, not fans, but they were. Thrill seekers, and they were going on to they had those little Geiger counters and seeing if how long they could stay in there, but then they overstayed, and then there must have been like people who had been in there, and the government was rounding them up.
I like that.
Ew.
I don't know if you saw that. Is that the
No,
same?
I saw. I don't know. The one I saw, I couldn't finish it. It was just too.
Oh,
I don't know. I just have a hard time.
there was a movie.
Too B of a movie.
There was a movie that was originally it was a French movie, or some. It was either French or some foreign movie, but then they made it, and there was an American version where a firefighter team went. There was a camera crew. It was one of those ones, you know, they call found footage. It was done like that, and this team they go to this apartment building. And you know, some kind of plague or something got out, and it attacked this older woman, and then it spread, and then the government comes and they tarp the whole building, and they're not letting anybody out. You ever seen Cloverfield?
No. Is that any good?
Oh yes,
I've never watched
Cloverfield
that.
is so good. And then Cloverfield Lane is good too, but the last Cloverfield, which takes place in space.
Huh.
I was going to make a joke about it because it was almost, it's not an elevator.
Okay.
It's not
Good.
an
Because I
elevator.
don't want a space elevator.
But they were on a space station. They were trying to create this almost renewable energy source because it takes place in the future. And then they're saying this is what caused the monster to attack and the other stuff to happen, because basically their machine that two different universes opened a hole and stuff was coming through, which I think that's a pretty good concept. But the way I will say that to say that's why it happened. I like that, but the movie that they did to get you to why it happened was pretty weak. I mean, I know there was a guy who lost his arm in the movie, and then they found it, and then the arm would start. It didn't look like it was bleeding, and then the thing was moving on its own.
Oh. That's weird.
This all sort of weird stuff. You have any movies that you would ever change?
Like I said, just I Am Legend. That's the first thing that comes to mind, is I would end that happier.
You always, I think, knowing you, because I was thinking about this, because I think, you ever think you could read a person pretty well by knowing them? Like,
Yeah.
I think I know, because I think, I know Michelle, she would always want a happy ending or something.
Do. Like, life is hard, and I get that they try to make things more real, but life is hard. I can find sad endings everywhere. When I go to a movie, I want to leave feeling good. I don't want to leave sad.
Right on.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's
better.
reasonable. So what if it's predictable?
not?
Most movies are predictable anyhow, but I want to leave feeling happy. I want to leave feeling good about life.
So she just about did. You remember the movie AI, how that ended?
Who? AI?
AI.
Yes.
He could have had more than a day. You know what I mean? One day is all he got. That ended really sad. I mean, sure, it had to be over, but why? I mean, this is a movie. They could have said, you're going to live as light now, or we're going to do whatever.
Yeah.
But that kid did so much, and he got one day with his mommy.
Well,
Well, people say that, that's too predictable, but, then they can go see other movies. I want to see the ones that end happy,
I like that.
I like that. I sort of did like that ending, but you could say, well, he's a machine,
It
and
was beautiful. Yeah, it was
and
beautiful.
he's a machine, and that day for him could go on forever in his whatever. I mean, eventually, yeah, whatever they used to bring her back was going to break down, but he could exist. That day could replay over in his head. I mean, it's that sort of stuff.
That's all he wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know. But no, getting back to the Terminator thing, those sort of hyper advanced, like AI in the AI, are sort of like what I would put in there that would rescue John Connor and replaced him with like a duplicate, so like the timeline wouldn't be corrupted. Like okay, if we take John Connor from getting killed, then something's going to happen.
Right.
But put him back. Okay, there's a John Connor there, so nobody knows he didn't die. But
Except for us.
That's asking a lot,
Yeah.
Matt.
Huh?
That's asking a lot.
Except for those of us who saw it.
Yeah, I mean,
what you think that's too much to say?
no,
I
I'd say
was
it's
like-
asking a lot.
It was a long time ago, but they made a movie, and I never watched the whole movie, just little bits of it on. But it was called Soap Dish, and it had Whoopi Goldberg in it, and they were making fun of like how in soap operas that people come back from the dead all the time and stuff.
Oh.
And I just remember seeing the commercial for it, and one of the scenes, Whoopi Goldberg is the writer, and she's like, decapitated. I cannot write lines for a man without a head.
That sounds
They'll bring people
familiar.
back as their evil twin or whatever all the time. Like the same actors and actresses come back in as different characters all the time because they just, it's just what they used to do back in the 80s, especially.
That's a good point.
And it was just so funny that, you just, I don't know, the lines, it's just the thoughts of it that you can do whatever. It's fake. But
Yeah,
maybe we take it too serious sometimes.
I know it's fake, but it's just like, well, even writers of books, they're trying to make. I mean, I'm writing something right now, but they're not. I mean, I know I couldn't create a masterpiece, or I'm just like, you want to
We don't
weave,
know that.
you want to weave it all together to try to.
But I do hate when they mess up a book really bad in a movie.
Like,
Especially if you really loved the story.
yes,
It's like, ugh.
especially when the book is so good and then they deliver. I hated the first Hunger Games.
The books were better than the movies.
Yes.
But the movies were okay. Alone, the
Yeah.
movies were fine.
Can you think of a movie that's better than the book?
A movie
I
that's
can't.
better than the book, I can't.
I can't either.
Well, they can't tell as much of the story
No.
in as much detail because there's so many things. Like I notice even lately, I've been watching movies with a closed caption on at home because it'll show little cues. Like it'll say this song's playing in the background or something.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of things that I would have never caught watching the movie that you would have known if you were reading the book. And then sometimes that's an important fact later. But when you're watching it with the closed caption on and it shows that stuff, I'm like, oh, I see. And it's just they can't put as much detail.
I
in it.
have a
They
hard time
to.
watching something twice. I tell you, I don't know why.
You can't watch a movie twice.
Barely. It's been years, maybe.
I
I can't think of too many.
But I'm a read the end of the book person. I like to know if I know how it ends and then I go back and watch it again. Then so many things seem so much more important. It's like, oh, that's why that matters. Because if you don't know this, you can't get to that. I'm like, I love it. I'm all about reading it again.
I like books more than movies.
You like what?
Books.
Mm.